And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at a little small game called Village Rails. I gotta be honest, I would have probably passed this one by because train games are a dime a dozen, but this one is, the thing that caught my eye was that it's done by Matthew Dunson and Brett Gilbert. Now, I like their collaborations. Also, it says a game of locomotives and locomotives, which doesn't mean anything in the game. This is a game, it's a tile laying game, a card laying game. You're laying out 12 cards. At the end of those 12 cards, you see who has the highest score. It sounds a little simple. There's a little bit more to it than that. I'll show you. Each player is going to build their own little starting grid at the beginning of the game. You'll just take A, B, C, or D. They're just ways to randomize it. You can see B here is a little different than A. So these are, you have these different trains. You're starting one here, you're starting one here, you're starting one here, 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 and here. So you are going to be placing cards over the course of this game in these different spots. You're going to be placing 12 cards, and after everyone has placed 12 cards, then the game is going to end. What you're trying to do is you're trying to score points for completing a line, and lines are going to end either down here on the bottom or over here on the side. So on your turn, the first thing you're going to do is you may buy one of these cards here. These planning a trip cards, it's called. These cost 3. So let's say I'm like, you know what? I want this card. So I'm going to pay 3. But the card farthest away from the deck is free. It's 3, not free. Every card after that, you have to put a coin in the card before it. So I put a coin here. I'll take this card. These cards slide down. A card comes off the top of the deck. By the way, this deck is used for both sides. If you took a card on the other side, it flips over. And then I'm going to put this over this spot here. There's a spot to put 2 of these on each of the starting tracks, but I'll put it on this one. Then you're going to take one of these tracks over here. These are free. You must take one of these. You may take this. So when I take a track, again, the bottom one's free. I have to put a coin in each one. But you know what? I'm content taking the bottom one. These are all going to slide down, and a new card is going to come out. And then your first card must connect to the outside of the grid. After that, they need to connect to each other. So I'll put it there. And look, I've just finished this. So when I finish it, you're going to score points for a few different things. If your track finishes, if it has this thing which looks remarkably like a hamburger on it, that's going to be worth the points it shows. So this one's worth 5 points. If, for example, my track had looked like this, then it would be worth 5 points from that. The little terminals here, these barns, this one shows a forest, so this says I get 1 point. Every barn gives you 1 point for each part terrain that it goes through, and that includes the starting spot. This one here is plains, but this one is wood, so I get 1 point. So far, this is scoring me 1 point. There are signals. If you have signals on a track, you're going to get points for how many of you've used. If you have 4 signals on the same track, that's 24. 1 is worth 0, so you need at least 2. 2 would give you 8. They can be worth a lot of points, but you have to have at least 1 or more on the track. And then tractors will give you 1 point for each different terrain type you go through. So the more different types of terrain, the more a tractor's worth. But as I said, this one is only worth 1 point for me currently. However, I did play this card here before I finished the line, and this gives me 9 points minus 1 point for each track on the tile, including the border. So I have 1, 2. So this is worth 7 points. And so on my little score counter, I'll keep track of 7 points. You then are going to get income from the track. Each player starts with 3 terminus cards. I'm going to pick one of these. So for example, I might pick this one here, which is the number of planet trip cards that I assigned to that line. Well, I assigned 1 to the line, so I'm going to get an income of 5. But even if I had done nothing, you'll always get 3, but you can get higher amounts, like this is the number of these points in the line. If I'd done 3 or higher with this card, I would get 10. But 5 is not bad. I'll take 5 money. I'll put this card here to show that this line is terminated. Draw another one of these cards. Next person's turn. You're not always going to score a track at the end of your turn, but you will at some point because you have to fill in all 12 of these spots. When all 12 spots are filled, and so let's put in cards. Let's pretend that I don't think I would build this way. It doesn't look very point scoring-ness at all, but it's going to look like something like this. You'll have this out here. And by the way, you can rotate these cards 180 degrees, but that's about it. Once you play these out here, the only thing that you'll have at the end game scoring is these lines with sidings. And at that point, you're going to look at each of your lines, and the number of lines you have with siding will score you. So you have 1, 2, because this one has 1, 3, 4. There's 2 in the same one, so that only counts as 4. So 4 lines with siding gets me 16 points. 7 would give me 49, so that's pretty cool. So it's basically the square of that. And that's it. You're going to add all your points together, and whoever has the most is the winner. I should mention before we take a look at components that you also get a point for every 3 money you have at the end of the game, and that could happen because you could get a lot of money depending on how well you play your Terminus cards. This is a small game. It's very easy to take apart these. They're just 4 puzzle pieces that fit together, and you have A, B, C, and D at the beginning of the game. The cards are nice. They have different types of terrain on them. They look kind of cool. My only complaint would be it's not very easy. You can see here, there's an icon in the corner that shows this is forest. You say, well, that's obvious. Perhaps, and this one might be obvious that it's water, but I do wish they had put maybe a white background on those so they would be easier to see. The money is, well, okay, it's just tokens. I do not particularly like these scoring things. They work well. It goes up to 199, but you're keeping track of your own score here all the time, and other players don't really see this. I don't know, I just felt like this could have been done better, maybe having a scoring track, but I know they were trying to keep everything so it fit nicely in this box. So the components here are, they're fine for a small little game. This is a very simple game that I might almost call a filler, except it's very thoughtful. So it has a mechanism I like. I don't know what the mechanism's called, but picking a card and putting coins in the one you skip, I've always liked that one. At the beginning of this game, you're like, oh, I don't have enough money. But near the end of the game, especially if you play those terminal cards, right, you'll be like, I have lots of money. And then the picking the card is going to matter. Obviously, there's some luck on how the cards come out, and sometimes you just get a nice combo. But you might sit there and say, for example, well, Tom, you scored a lot of points in that first line. I did. 7 points for one connecting line isn't bad. But I'm also 1/7 done with the game. So I have to think carefully how I place the rest of them. I need to think about the sidings. I need to think about, you know, do I want to have a whole bunch of the same terrain in a line, or do I want to have none of that terrain? Some of the ways these scoring cards work. So for example, this, I can, if I have more cattle on this, on any other terrain on the line, then I get 4 points. Same thing here with water. If there's 3 of the same non-science feature on the line, 6 points. This is 2 points for each type of feature on this line. This one here says only straight tracks on this line. If I pull that off, I make it go straight down or straight across, I get 6 points. But remember, you can have 2 of these on a line. You can also not worry about these and just try to go for big points and try to score that way. Getting 4 signals is a lot of points. That might be worth you doing that. 24 points for one line without the cards, but getting the cards is also kind of handy. This feels like a filler of sorts for people who like heavier strategy games. Now, I liked it. I thought it was a lot of interesting, but I played it with a couple people who liked playing the heavier Euro-style games, and they were like, this is pretty good. This is pretty thinky for a small game. And if I was ever making a list of top 10 small but thinky games, this could very well be on it. Like the name, Village Rails, and the picture on the cover isn't going to really sell anyone on the game. But if you want and I don't even know if trains is a theme to bring you in here, because you're not really moving anything in this game. The trains, you're just placing tiles down to connect things. It could have been highways. It could have been any kind of connections. But I mean, the train theme doesn't hurt it necessarily. But it is very much like which card. I look at all the cards out there. I look at the money I have, which ones I can afford, where I'm going to put the card. Maybe I'll put this here. Do I want to finish this line, or do I want to extend it longer? I want to try to meet these requirements of these cards I bought. Which card should I buy? Not tough choices, not choices that are going to paralyze you, but choices nonetheless. And so in that end, I was pretty impressed with it. So that's Village Rails. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time. Dice Tower Judgment approved.